All right. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Most High in Christ blessed. As always, thank you for tuning in. Back at it once again with a topic for you on Milk and Honey page on Facebook. The topic tonight is called Choose Your Character. Choose Your Character. Let me start off this way. Many people have heard of like little phrases that are thrown around that people have heard throughout their life. Like one of the ones I like a lot is how's it go? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I like the phrase because it kind of gives you the entire scope of in a small sentence. It gives you kind of the entire scope of how people think and how they eventually move based on circumstances and situations that they find themselves in. It's true, scary, but it's true because that's what happens when you leave people to their own devices. And it's it's sad part of life, but it is true nonetheless. All you ever have to do is kind of sit back and watch how a person's mind, their thoughts, their lusts, what direction it carries them in. Because ultimately, our default setting is to go astray and to regress back to selfishness and self-preservation ultimately. And there's a reason, like, you read the scriptures a lot and the Bible talks about how all the time about the theme of like confessing sins, confessing faults, and it tells you in Sirach, don't force the course of the river. This is the way things are supposed to go, but we know as corrupt as this world is, as corrupt as people are, it's not normal for you get looked at weird and ridiculed if you say things or if you do something and you confess to it. Most people try to hide things and try to play behind something to not acknowledge what they've done or do some type of shady thing to get around accountability of themselves. You see this all the time. Relationships with people in general, the way that they do things. You have the justice system in America. Everybody backdoors things and lawyers know how to look for loopholes to get a murderer off. You have all this stuff across the spectrum, and this is the way things normally work. But the Lord is always telling and teaching us to do something different, to not go that way, even though it feels like a natural thing. That's why people say things like absolute power corrupts absolutely, because it feels natural. When you have a certain level of esteem or money or whatever it is, people tend to go astray and not understand or do the right things. And the Lord calls in the scriptures, the Lord refers to men as beasts. Women the same way. It's just written masculine, but it refers to men as being beasts in reference to the creatures under this domain being void of law. And this is the theme of everything. Everybody's void of law. Not necessarily, or more specifically, the law that the Most High talks about. Because this is a perfect law. It's a law and a process and procedure that no other person can come up with. It's not possible. You're not going to find it in Islam. You're not going to find it in Catholicism. Anything you can think of. This is the foundation of what's right and what's wrong. And this is the proper way to deal with every situation you might come across. But ultimately, you see this across the board of corruption because people don't know law. They're void of it. So let's start off keep that in mind. Let's start off in Leviticus chapter 2. Let's go to the law. Leviticus chapter 2 and let's start at verse 13. We'll start at verse 12. As for the oblation of the first fruits, ye shall offer them unto the Lord, but they shall not be burnt on the altar for a sweet savor. And every oblation of thy meat offering shalt thou season with salt. Neither shalt thou suffer the salt of the covenant of thy God to be lacking from thy meat offering. With all thine offerings thou shalt offer salt. Now, if somebody might read this on the surface and be like, what? And I mean, sometimes when you first are in a lot of these scriptures and you're getting familiar with them, you look at a lot of these different things and you're just like, why is this even here? Why would the creator of all things make sure that certain things like this get written in here? It's for a reason. If you've been in the truth long enough, you understand that the Most High, even you understand the Lord the slightest bit. One of the first things you pick up on, you start to understand, is the Most High doesn't do things for no apparent reason. He didn't commission these things and these words, things that are in here and the things that are withheld out. It's strategic and masterful in the genes and the way the Most High works and operates. So there is not wasted moves. There's not things that are done that the Most High did not have a purpose for. Same thing with the commands, and everything that you read in here is for a specific reason. Now, a lot of people might see these things as pointless. Like, again, if you're not familiar with it, or somebody that's just every 6 months open the Bible, read the scripture, pastors, you might have that situation. But some of these things might seem confusing or, a waste of pages while you're writing these things in here, but they're very strategic. And there's a rhyme and a reason to how these things are constructed and done. There's a reason why the Most High says, don't deal with a woman on her cycle, okay? There's a reason that the Most High says, don't mix certain fabrics together. Believe it or not, there's an understanding to it, okay? There's a reason why the Most High says Israelite men and women are not supposed to take on and marry somebody of another nation. But somebody in the modern times would be like, well, that's racist, first off. And they don't understand the point of that. Because listen, the heart wants what it wants. You have, I'm going to call them outliers. You're going to have situations where you have a person, I mean, this has happened in the truth. You can kind of place faces to situations. You are going to have situations where somebody presents themselves to you and says, hey, I'm African American, I'm black, I would be an Israelite, but my entire life, my family that's supposed to be there for me through thick and thin has not been there. And the only person that's been there is my white wife, or my Indian wife, or my Chinese husband, whatever it is. I'm calling those outliers because people like to play the statistics games all day, and we can do that, and somebody's going to lose by this argument. You have situations like that, okay? And people are going to ask you, well, if that's the case, what am I supposed to do? Like these things seem arbitrary. It seems useless at this point because I know what has worked for me. Now, the Most High doesn't tell us as Israelites not to deal with other nations. His focus is not to shrink the dating pool so you can't find a spouse. It's not the case why the Most High does things. Let's attack this logically. Let's say if I ask the person, somebody that says that, because I'm going to say it's not advantageous for our people to do these things, to marry outside their nation, because of this. Besides the responsibility you have as being an Israelite and worrying about your nation first, okay? You ask that person, what can you give me the time period where you've seen throughout the history of the world our people just seamlessly side by side living with the other nations in complete peace and harmony? When and where is the utopia or the time frame, 8th century, BC, now, whenever? What time do you see black and white people just living together peacefully in harmony? Where's this utopia at? You never see that. You don't. There is no time frame that somebody's going to pick out and show that and highlight that to me. So there's a purpose why the Most High does this. That's not good for us, because ultimately, when we look at the track record of us with other nations, it's either somebody's playing the playing a servitude role, or somebody's playing the oppressor. It's usually within that workings, as you find throughout societies and history throughout the world. This is how things have gone, and most of the time, we find ourselves in that servitude role. Hence, America. So there is no time frame when you see this happening. You're gonna have little outliers here and there, but this is the reason why the Most High does specific things, and that's not even a spiritual understanding of it. That's just a logical breakdown. So you attack this logically and it doesn't work. Getting aside from what the Most High spiritually wants us to understand from these dynamics of why he tells us certain things. Okay, so there's a reason to it. There's also a reason when reading this. Make sure every offering has salt on it. There's a reason why the Most High specifically says, if you're going to come to me with an offering, you make sure that it does not have a blot in it. You make sure that that's the case. Do not come to me with something that's got a blemish, a scratch, something on it. Don't do that. There's a purpose behind it, because somebody's going to look at this and be like, why is the creator worried about these different things? Same thing with the fabrics. I mention this all the time because that seems very rudimentary to people. You have to get out of your own mind. The Most High knows what's best. You'll learn if you have patience and give it time. I'm sure, I don't know if I've read it before. Spiritually this has happened, but I don't know about physically. I'm sure, as wicked as Israel is and this nation is, I'm sure somebody throughout our history in the scriptures has probably, maybe not in the scriptures, but like in our history of people, I'm sure somebody has had the choice between, they have two animals and they're going to be like, this one's better than this one. I have to make the choice now, because I can't come to the Most High with a blot. But I'm brother or sister or somebody that has to present something to the priest. I would lean on the fact that somebody in our history has probably looked at those two sacrifices and been like, I can give the Lord this one, or I can keep it for myself. And I can give him the one that has the slightest defect on it. The priest that I'm bringing it to, he might not notice it. He might not see it. So I'll keep the best one to myself. I'm not going to be transparent. I'm not going to be honest. Nobody can see it. I'm going to bring this to the Lord spiritually. People might not understand what I mean when I say spiritually. This happens all the time. But sticking physically, I would guess that somebody in our history has done that. Knowing our people, somebody's probably done that. And oftentimes, as it is with the Most High's commandments, if you're not willing to fulfill the physical tasks that the Most High has commanded, I don't say asked, has commanded of us, then you're going to miss the spiritual understanding of it. Because again, you find something that the Most High says is very simplistic and, like I said, rudimentary. This is very ABC like. It's not necessary for me to do this. Then you're ultimately going to miss the higher understanding of the higher calling of what the Most High has asked for that for. Because there's a dual understanding in these things. First physical, then spiritual. So there's a reason for these different things. Now, this is the reason why people they'll try to downplay the Old Testament and be like, well, I don't see why we can't just pick the New Testament and move forward in the understanding and Christ's commandments that he gave us. This is where you miss a lot of that if you're not paying attention and understanding the importance of why the lessons in the Old Testament are the way that they are. For a God or the creator of the universe to communicate to a people made from the dust of the ground, he has to do it some way. And the Most High, we can't figure out another way, a best way to do this. The Most High has done it perfectly. And this is the importance of following what the Most High says and not leaning on your own understanding like the scriptures say. All right. So keep that in mind. let's go to First Timothy, second or first. I think it's first. First Timothy, yeah. Can't believe I'm missing that one. First Timothy chapter 3 and verse 13. First Timothy 3:13 says, "For they that have used the office of a deacon well purchase to themselves a good degree." For they that have used the office of a deacon well purchase to themselves a good degree, and great boldness in the faith which is in Christ Jesus. Now, yeah, let's say this. This is a side note. I always find this very fascinating or humorous that you have these conversations with brothers and you see them a lot. And they're on the forefront of the movement, if you would. The ones that are in the streets teaching, the ones that want to be in the streets teaching, the ones that are proud to get ranked up and looked at as a leader. I find it very fascinating that they want to take on all these roles and these characteristics of the 144, all these other things as high as they can go. And they do an about face and quickly retreat when you bring them here and you tell them to read verse 12. I find that very fascinating. I just read it. Verse 12, let the deacons be the husbands of one wife, ruling their children in their own houses well. I just find that very fascinating. That brothers they'll want to be in the forefront and do all these different things as the leader. But when you bring them here and be like, oh, you can't have multiple wives, they'll be like, oh, no, that's just for a deacon. That's just, some of these brothers in the truth have the deacon in their name. They have the title deacon in their name and they have more than one wife. Just fascinating observation. But this is a side note. Verse 13, for they that have used the office of a deacon well purchased to themselves a good degree. This isn't this isn't carnal, like a degree in the terms of like a 4-year college where you go rack up debt and you spend all those man hours studying and in the school and classroom doing all this other stuff, and you don't ever use this degree. Like, there's plenty of people that have $80,000 in college debt and they don't have a job that they studied for in college. This is not this. This is a degree. This is life 101. When you read these characteristics and the things that these men are supposed to show themselves they have the attributes of, this is something that transcends beyond the grave, because the new world to come, believe it or not, the new world to come is full of people with these characteristics. So this isn't some rudimentary degree. It's just all purchased to themselves. They do it well because this is the aspects of what a person's supposed to have and what they're supposed to aspire to if they're lacking some of these things. It's what you're supposed to do. Now, I read on. Verse 14. These things write I unto thee, hoping to come unto thee shortly. But if I tarry long, that thou mayest know how thou oughtest to behave thyself in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and ground of the truth. So Paul's writing these letters, right? The inner workings of a lot of stuff that we do in the truth, it predominantly happens behind the scenes. I know we spend a lot of time on the street. Like I said, brothers be on the street, in the classroom and different things. But the meat and potatoes, if you will, of the spirit of things and the understanding of it, it's more worthy behind the scenes. What I mean is like anybody can, including me, anybody can show the best versions of themselves when the record button is red over the camera and it's recording somebody, putting a class out. People want to believe what you show them. All right. They tend to. And this is very digestible to the masses. Like it's it's the same way when you look up these statistics and these numbers, they bear out Instagram. Many people, depression is tied to Instagram. I might have mentioned this before, but I'm sure this is probably not lost on people. I'm sure somebody had mentioned this before. Depression's very high in the statistics in conjunction with Instagram. Because what you see is these quick clips and these quick videos of, you know, a person having the best day, the best moment, the best hour of their life. But when the camera goes off, the cocaine might come out to balance out the depression that somebody's in or the sad state that somebody's in. That's only when the camera's off. A child, somebody's child might be crying in the corner because they don't have anything to eat because the mom don't have a job. But every post that she put up is pictures of her looking like she'd been in Paris the last week. This people see these things and they believe them. And they believe them. This kind of goes back to the level of responsibility that you have to bear, that you prove that you are what you say you are, because you can get exposed real quick. And this is the same for politics, as you see so many people wrapped up in, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. Our people be so caught up in local voting, and less, we can change things with a better council or judges or this and that. It's all rhetoric. They all do the same thing in different branches. They serve the same purpose, so it's useless. But people believe politics. People are ready to fight over that stuff. You have football players that talk about, oh yeah, we're a team. We got to get this. The way we win and get to a Super Bowl and the ultimate goal of a championship is that we have to look and understand that we are family. But in the locker room, we smart enough not to mention religion or politics. Well, that's not family then. That's acquaintances getting together to solve a particular problem in the interim of an instance. So politics, sports, it's no different than brothers and sisters in the truth. As you look at, if you view this through the eye of not a person that hasn't endured a long time. If we look at it through the lens of a brother or a sister that never misses a Sabbath, a brother or a sister that is always there for class, they always show up, they're always there, they can be counted on when you see them with the eye. But you have to wonder why the Most High allowed things like scriptures say, many are called, but few are chosen. And that's not through the ones that, oh yeah, he did something for a certain period of time, but he just didn't last. I'm talking about brothers and sisters that are called and they're there and you see them with your eye and they look like from a distance, okay, they're doing everything they need to be doing. They got the fringes on, Sabbath class, they here with the food, they doing this, they doing that. But will ultimately fall short of the goal of salvation or getting to the next world because of their insincerity and their defrauding their neighbor, the spirit of Christ that's owed to a person in matters when it's supposed to be behind closed doors, especially behind closed doors. When a brother or sister is not fulfilling certain things when people aren't looking, that's where the bread and butter comes from. When all eyes are off of you and you have inner dynamic of relationships between a brother and a sister or a brother and a brother, and certain circumstances pop up and you are not showing them the spirit of Christ that you are supposed to do, you start to regress and go back to that default state of yours. You're only showing up to, if everybody else is seeing it, okay, well, we're all good. Everybody is giving their account of this person and be like, hey, they're doing what they're supposed to do. I've seen them here, I've seen them there, but then somebody else on the other side is being like, man, I mean, that's who he is when the camera's there, but when I've dealt with him one-on-one, I don't see the spirit of Christ in him. He don't operate like that when I deal with him. But He making sure that he's a certain way when all eyes are on me. It's the same thing Paul's explaining. I'm I'm writing this letter to precede my visit, to be there before me in case I tarry long, that a brother or a sister understands how to operate and how to carry themselves in the house of God. That's not just in the church building, because we know at the end of the day, the Most High doesn't dwell in temples made with hands. This is something, you are the temple. So this is not a procedure that you're supposed to follow within the confines of four walls. It's not supposed to be the situation. You're supposed to carry this all the time. It's supposed to be within you everywhere. The importance of it is when nobody's looking, you are still the same person through and through, to being honest and sincere and transparent in all things. Now, this is the exact same thing when a brother has that sacrifice. You go back to the example of the two sacrifices that he has. Am I going to present the best I can, or am I going to present the one that I can get away with? Nobody else is seeing it. I know it's there, but nobody else is knowing it's there. But predominantly, I'm coming up to the Lord with my sacrifice in the offering, looking, everybody's on looking, being like, man, okay, he's at least admitted he got sin. He's bringing up his sacrifice, man, doing the right thing. Ultimately, the Most High looking at him is like, man, you had, this guy's got something wrong with it, and you thought that you can slide by the Most High. You are not coming to the table with your best. Again, there's a reason why these things are written in law. There's a reason why the Most High has this thing etched in bold print that we can go back and look upon to understand and learn from, of these examples of these things that happen. Ultimately, you're held accountable for. So it's a great thing that the Most High has these there for, because nobody can make the excuse anymore, even though somebody will try, I'm sure, ultimately. But this is the exact same thing Paul is explaining. These letters are coming before me. I might not be there at this particular time like I thought I was. Paul was going through a lot of different things. But you have these things to read upon, not have to ask me or wait for me to come. You have these things. Read them. It's the exact same thing now. When we have these scriptures in front of us, bold print, we can go back and read it over and over again for life lessons. We ain't got to wait to see Christ come out of the sky and be like, oh, I know, I believe him. No, you have all this stuff right here for your understanding and you to sift through. As much time as it might take for you to get a particular understanding or whatever, a grasp on something, it's there for you. So you have to be able to go back here, study, learn, and understand what the Most High has written these things down for. There's a reason for all this. All right, go to 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 1. One second. Okay. Yeah, all right. All right, 2 Corinthians. Trying to mess this camera up. 2 Corinthians chapter 1. And let's start at verse 3. It says, blessed be God, even the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort, who comforted us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble, by the comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of God. I'm gonna read it again. You should be ultimately understanding what the Most High is doing with everything. Everything. It's what we read earlier. If you've, as a deacon, and this is again for people that might not understand, even if the deacon, going back to Timothy, the title of deacon, it's a servant to the king. It's still a servant ultimately. There's people want to play semantics with I'm not a deacon or I'm not this and I'm not that. You want to strive for that. It's not necessarily you might ultimately run up and get to a goal of being the elder over a church or bishop, if you will, over multiple places or whatever. I mean, It might not happen. Everybody has a different gift. But the characteristics of an elder you want to have, the characteristics of a deacon you want to have, because all of them hold the Spirit of Christ in the same regard as everybody's supposed to envelop those attributes. You're supposed to have them. Okay. I'm gonna read this again. This is, it should, maybe you have to read it for yourself, but it should help you to understand the purpose of all of this. This is a thick Bible, a lot of understanding and a lot of words in here. But ultimately, the theme of this thing stays consistent. Verse 4. Verse 3 again. Blessed be God, even the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort, who comforteth us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble, by the comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of God. For as the sufferings of Christ abound in us, so our consolation also aboundeth by Christ. And whether we be afflicted, it is for your consolation and salvation, which is effectual in the enduring of the same sufferings which we also suffer. Or whether we be comforted, it is for your consolation and salvation. And our hope of you is steadfast, knowing that as ye are partakers of the sufferings, so shall ye be also of the consolation. If you don't understand ultimately kind of what Paul's getting at, I mean, because again, Paul's letters are not easy to be understood, but there's a certain theme to it. It's the same thing. He has that spirit on him, the same spirit that Christ, prophets, righteous prophets before of old have had the same thing. One thing, common theme in mind, and the Most High teaches us this through carnal law. Many of us, I know this has helped me. Many of us, some days our only motivation is seeing a brother or sister still putting in effort and pushing through, despite the world doing its best to end them. So whether the odds, the circumstances that are stacked against them, seeing constant, have to be multiple, but just seeing one, you see an example like that. We read a lot of them in the scriptures, but face to face, seeing examples like that, it helps. I mean, for me personally, it helps. So that sometimes that might be your only motivation, because again, I mention this all the time. There's some days it's just not there. You just don't have it. Everybody wants to think that everybody's so strong, and that goes back to the Instagram and people putting their best foot forward on class, and they'd be like, man, that brother never struggles, that sister never struggles. Okay, everybody's got something that they battle. But seeing and knowing people like that, it helps me, because they've put all their energy and all their effort in the times when they, in their desperate situations, they leaned on the Most High, and that's become part of their testimony. So it helps to hear that and to know people like that. Sometimes that's our only motivation. The same thing Paul was saying. My situation I'm going through, and I know that the Most High has helped me, just so that I can help another brother or sister through their situation. See, this dynamic working. Christ had this same thing with the Most High. Verse 8. For we would not, brethren, have you ignorant of our trouble which came to us in Asia, that we were pressed out of measure above strength, insomuch that we despaired even of life. But we had the sentence of death in ourselves, that we should not trust in ourselves, but in God, which raiseth the dead, who delivered us from so great a death, and doth deliver, in whom we trust that he will yet deliver us. So there's nothing like we say things like people talk about how they reevaluate life when they're given or put in a situation that they may be facing death. Somebody had a heart attack, or everybody starts to dial back and think about Maybe I should have done this differently. Maybe I should have took this a little bit more serious. Everybody does that. That's what flashes of death do, or dire situations. But what can also happen is that you can be pigeonholed to a circumstance. The whole part of having faith in the Most High is that you understand that the physical, spiritual will ultimately transcend the physical. It's the spiritual is going to take you somewhere that the physical can't. This is all your motivation in having all your energy and effort and belief in the Most High, because He can take you through anything. Now, a lot of times, like I said before, certain situations, people get pigeonholed to a certain circumstance, and then they start to regress. Instead of leaning on the Most High and understanding that there's a lesson in all this, a personal dial back, because that's a piece of them. That piece of that world is still in them. And to be honest, a piece of the world still in all of us. It's not. People deal with it differently. Some people, still transgress the laws, but you can have a battle with the world and not be in violation of the law. I mean, that's the goal. You want this stuff to be put off from you, but the time is not yet. These things have to be learned and experienced so that you come out of those situations with valuable information. So what tends to happen with conflict and trouble is people start to regress back to that default state of self-preservation and selfishness. And it's happens a lot. And our goal is to try to move past that. It's not to stay in that. You're supposed to grow from circumstances, not to keep regressing and being in the same situation as always. So Paul's explaining, when you read about Paul's talking about there was a situation where he could have gotten killed, multiple situations, but specifically in this, I don't want you to be ignorant of this situation. Don't be ignorant of it, because ultimately the Most High put him in a position, not in this dire situation. This is life and death. Some of this stuff brothers and sisters flake on, not even close to a matter of where you can lose your life. It's situations and arguments and stuff, and people regress back to state of being a nigga or being a person in the world. Paul's talking about life and death, a complete dire situation, and it's not to put him in mental fatigue. It's not to stress him out to the point where he loses faith. It's to Most High put him in that position to reassure what he professes to be a proponent of him believing in the Most High. He can have his complete trust in the Lord. It can be shown and brought forth once again. That's what Paul's situation is. Paul's saying, don't be dire of these situations, don't be ignorant of these situations. Understand what I done and what I went through, so eventually you'll learn from this too. You have this strength that you can call upon in these situations that most people don't have. That's his relationship with the Most High. Now, where we're supposed to see this thing transform, and it's the exact same thing Paul's explaining and trying to explain to the reader. Verse 11, ye also helping together by prayer for us, that for the gift bestowed upon us by the means of many persons, thanks may be given by many on our behalf. Okay, so I mentioned that Christ has this relationship with the Father. The Lord gave up his life for Paul, for all of us at the end of the day, but specifically Paul. The Lord gave his life up for Paul, and Paul is willing to give his life up for the truth. Okay, we're learning to sacrifice first. We learn to sacrifice with the Lord so we can understand the sacrifices that we have to make for each other. The same way that the Most High started off this carnal thing about bringing this sacrifice to me. Don't bring it with a block. Don't bring it maimed. Bring the best you got when you're dealing with me, because I'm the Most High. Sure enough, gonna give you the best He's got. This is a relationship. The scriptures is about relationships and sacrifice. This is what this is. Sacrificing for relationships. This is what the book is teaching us. So the Most High did this initially with carnal animal sacrifice. You build up your relationship with the Most High. The Most High sent his son. He sent a piece of, he willing to die for you, or you willing to give your life up for the truth. This has to work in conjunction. Now, even though this is teaching us this relationship with the Most High, those that understanding and those attributes, after we've learned it with the Lord, we're supposed to take that same relationship and deal with each other that exact same way. I'm now willing to die for you. Just that highest level of love Christ taught us. I'm willing to put my life on the line so you can survive. It's the same thing Christ did, the same thing we're supposed to do with each other. That's the highest level of love that we are supposed to display amongst our nation. It's the reason why no other nation on the earth can function and come together with such unity if these laws are exercised in sincerity, in truth. Then we can do it. It can work that way. Paul's explaining the exact same way. You helped us by prayer with us. You read in Samuel when the Lord says, let me read it real quick before I butcher it. 1 Samuel 12:23. It says, moreover, as for me, this is Samuel speaking, God forbid that I should sin against the Lord in ceasing to pray for you, but I will teach you the good and the right way. Samuel had this situation where he's telling the people, like, y'all bring up a situation where I've taken advantage of you, or I haven't been truthful and honest with you. That, when a person can stand on that, and there's nobody that can pull his card because he's been sincere in the things that he's doing. There's I want to use the word moxie, but there's a level of happiness, humility, and appreciation that you have been honest with the brothers and sisters you dealt with, and there's a certain feeling that you have when I know I didn't do anything to cause this person harm or take advantage of them. I fulfilled the goal that I'm supposed to do in dealing with brothers and sisters. I'm trying to be transparent in all things. I brought the best to them, and I'm happy about that. You can kind of rest easy with that. But if you're faking and you're playing games and you lying behind the scenes and you're saying this about this person, but then you switch up the story here and then you act in a certain way in front of a group of people, but then when you're with somebody else by themselves, I didn't do this, I ain't do that. You should feel shame. I mean, some people you deal with probably don't, but you should feel shame in operating that way. That is not what we're supposed to be doing. Samuel said that same thing. I've never robbed nobody. I've never done anything to take advantage of y'all. And that's a happy place to be, because you know the Most High is happy. I know nobody can pull my card. I'm happy with knowing I am who I say I am. Back to 2 Corinthians 1, verse 12. Same theme. For our rejoicing is this, the testimony of our conscience, that in simplicity and godly sincerity, not with fleshly wisdom, but by the grace of God, we have had our conversation in the world, and more abundantly to you word. So Paul's saying the exact same thing. My happiness and my joy comes from the fact of you seeing you succeed, seeing you ultimately get to where I'm trying to get to. And if I can be a helper in that, great. This is what we're supposed to learn through all these carnal sacrifices and all these different, things that seem to be useless, and putting fringes on and doing all these different things that are just like, what's the point? What's the point? And it ultimately brings you to this clarity. This is what we're supposed to learn from the physical side to the spiritual. There's no other way this could have been unlocked unless the Most High showed it like this. He had to do it like this to communicate to a lesser of a being in all of us, to have a fluent conversation with the Creator. This had to be done this way. And it teaches us everything. Now, sad to say that you see everybody wants to be like, brothers and sisters talk all the time about wanting to get right with the Lord. They want to get themselves together so they're acceptable. But you never see that same effort with each other. Like, brothers and sisters, don't be. I'm not. Of course, not everybody. Of course, not everybody. Because the Most High is sealing brothers and sisters that are transparent and honest and stuff. I know that it's there. It's just that you don't. Sadly, you don't ever see like a lot of like examples highlighted all the time, which is unfortunate. But this is the way it is. But you ask the question, like, if the Most High gave us what's perfect in the Bible, from front to last page, is perfect. How is it that we keep getting worse? I know we're progressing to the kingdom, but at least on face value, it looks like, this nation is doomed. It's what it be looking like a lot of times. And how do we get there if brothers and sisters are not bringing the best that they have to the table when we're dealing with situations? Because they're going to get to the point where we have trials and tribulations, and they come in the form of certain circumstances or conflicts or disagreements, or the inevitable friction that comes with holding each other accountable. It's always a problem. It's the same reason why we always talk about Matthew 18 being a situation where people just can't, they can't be honest and transparent with each other. But this is ultimately can be done because we have the blueprint. But it's all set up by us understanding, first and foremost, this relationship that you have with the Most High starts with Him, and then the same way we deal with Him, giving Him His best, giving Him our best, and He comes back and gives us 15 times greater than we can give Him. This is the relationship and the same things that we're supposed to carry and deal with each other the exact same way. Paul's saying the exact same thing. Let's go to Sirach real quick. Sirach 6. This is one scripture. Sirach 6 and 17. Yeah. I'll read verse 15. It says, nothing doth countervail a faithful friend. Nothing doth countervail a faithful friend, and his excellency is invaluable. A faithful friend is the medicine of life, and they that fear the Lord shall find him. Why? They that fear the Lord shall find him. Verse 17, whoso feareth the Lord shall direct his friendship aright, for as he is, so shall his neighbor be also. And this is the beautiful situation of the separating of people, because the Most High is going to find a home for everybody that's worthy of the reflection of what they're showing. Those birds of a feather. Let's read that other one. Sirach, I think it's 27. Yup, Sirach 27 and verse 9. The birds will resort unto their like, so will truth return unto them that practice in her. It's the exact same situation. The Most High is going to give you what you're putting out. And ultimately, we're supposed to want the best for each other. Supposed to learn now how pieces of the kingdom are going to flow and work with relationships and truthfulness and honesty and transparency, and being honest with ourselves when we do something wrong. And like I said earlier, confessing sins. I know that seems like a far-fetched idea as far as the world goes, but this is the way the Most High is telling us to do it, because everybody outside of this is devoid of law. We're not talking about stopping at a red light law. We're talking about how to be a decent human being. That type of law. Um, Luke 16, because it's another theme, and I think this is ultimately the problem. Luke 16, verse 13. No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. Mammon, money, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, it's just another lust. Whether a person that, I don't know, has a lust for women, a person that has a lust for cars, a person that has a lust, which seems to be a lot of the theme in Israel, a person that wants to be right all the time. That's a lust too. Make no difference. These are not attributes you're supposed to have. Verse 14, right on cue. And the Pharisees also, who were covetous, heard all these things, and they derided him. Of course they did. Verse 15, and he said unto them, Ye are they which justify yourselves before men. Let's pause right there. This is one of the, even if some people might not even be aware that they're doing it, but this happens so much that that level of fear that we're supposed to have for the Most High, people have that with men. Like, people get to this point where I can't say nothing to this person because, I mean, he in leadership. I can't correct this person because, man, we've been friends for a long time. What if you had that same mentality and carried that to an everlasting kingdom? Let's give everybody powers. Where would that leave? How would that not be the exact same thing as America? America is not a good place. It's the most wicked place on the planet. It's the exact same attitude you would carry into the new kingdom with this same rhetoric. And you have many brothers and sisters doing this constantly. I'm not going to say. He called out what's the name on Monday, but you kind of sat back in your chair when so-and-so did it. And you have, let me finish the verse. And he said unto them, Ye are they which justify yourselves before men, but God knoweth your heart. For that which is highly esteemed among men is an abomination in the sight of God. It's perfectly worded. Perfectly. Because it's the absolute truth. And if I don't know that brother's name. But you got that brother that it's fascinating how this can happen in the truth. You got the brothers, I don't know his name, but he put up a documentary. I think the other part just came out the other day. Brother had sent it was like part 3 he sent to me. I haven't watched the last part yet, but I saw the first 2. And I passed the point where I say I'm surprised anymore. Probably people be acting in the truth. But he put the third part out. And he's got this documentary put together because of the wickedness in Israel. Now, and it's stemming from camps. Now, do not take what I'm saying and against. No, I'm not against camps in no light, because any type of gathering of Israel is excellent, because that's what we're ultimately coming to do, to return back to the biggest camp anyway. So no, not against camps, but his documentary is not targeted, but he's talking about camps because that's his experience and what he's been through. Am I going to fault somebody for their experience? No. You might want to fault the people that gave him a bad experience, but I'm not going to fault the man that had the experience and he's talking about it. Now, a lot of brothers, it seems like, are mad about it. If he's lying about things, then may the Most High handle it. But if he's not, All praises to the Most High for this brother, because he's calling out what needs to be called out. Of course, people don't like to hear it. They don't like to hear these things. But you're not going to tell me that there's not wickedness in a lot of these congregations. You're not going to tell me that. That doesn't necessarily negate the fact of wicked Israelites that are running by themselves. I don't want to use the word rogue, but I'm not trying to bring pressure and find fault within congregations. All I'm saying is you're not gonna lie and say that we don't have wickedness in congregations. We're not gonna play that card. I know a lot of people want to do that, but a lot of these brothers ain't living right. A lot of these brothers by themselves ain't living right. Sisters the same way. So folks need to be called out and need to be put in front on Front Street for a lot of the things that they doing. A lot of people don't like it, but hey, Christ wouldn't hold his tongue. So you expect another brother or sister to do it, but you ultimately you have to ask the question, like, how much are we willing to sacrifice for our relationships to work? A lot of people are not willing to be transparent, or, like I mentioned earlier, give what's owed to that brother in every circumstance and situation, which is the Spirit of Christ in all these situations that happen. Give him that. He's owed that. We all brothers. We're supposed to operate this way. Give that brother that. Give that sister that. This is what we're supposed to be called to do. And Paul was saying, I'm testifying his conscience. Like, I'm good, because I can't think back on a time where I've tried to defraud my brother or something. Try to circumvent something. I fudged the truth to save myself, to save face. It's ridiculous, but it happens. This is the same reason why many are called, but few are chosen. Ultimately, let's go to Mark chapter 9. We'll wind down here. Mark 9. And it's ultimately sad, because it's like, how much time do we need to get it right, to get it together? I ain't saying I'm no finished product. I ain't saying I need Christ to come back tomorrow, because I got plenty of stuff I need. I'm trying to be transparent with that. Anybody ask me, I feel like I'm pretty upfront with a lot of different things. I ain't by no means perfect, but I understand my deficiencies, and I know I need work. There's a difference between that and a person that feels like they're good. Across the board, they're good, and don't say nothing bad about me, even though I know it's bad. Mark chapter 9, verse 49. For every one shall be salted with fire, and every sacrifice shall be salted with salt. Salt is good. Hold on, let me read that again. Verse 49, for every one shall be salted with fire, every sacrifice shall be salted with salt. Okay, so the trials and tribulations that everybody's going to go through, this is ultimately going to mete out the strong from the weak, the honest from the insincere. This is going to happen. Most High uses these things to get you to see yourself. The Most High already knows. It's not like the Most High's putting you through tribulations and he don't know which way you're going to go. It's ultimately a revelation for ourselves. What type of person are you really? If you can't see it now, the Most High is going to put you in situations where it comes out. So we're ultimately trying to get to know our spirits, in a sense. Hopefully you come out on the right side of it. Everyone shall be salted with fire. Every sacrifice shall be salted with salt. Salt has many benefits. If you look at, this is the practical understanding and the pragmatic way to approach things. If we're looking at certain situations, the Most High gave us these things. Look into them, because there's huge wisdom in what basic things that the Most High has given us. Same thing goes right back to the sacrifice and the blot and different things the Most High has articulated to us to give us a better understanding of what we're supposed to be doing and why we're doing it. Salt does purification, it heals, it preserves, it does a lot of different things. It has flavoring. Verse 50, salt is good, but if the salt have lost its saltness, wherewith will ye season it? Have salt in yourselves and have peace one with another. So we know, like even in Colossians, where it talks about your conversation supposed to be seasoned with salt, we've met the ultimate peak of what this dish is supposed to be, salt, rounding it off. It's the same way the laws come to us, with the understanding of what the Most High has given us. You're supposed to present yourself in that fully developed stage in every situation that you approach. Understand, having this within yourself, you're not going to lose it. You're not going to go back and regress to carnal basic speak, or fly off on emotion, or say something you can't get back to offend a brother or sister. You're supposed to have that within yourselves. That's our duty. Same thing with any brother or sister. That's why he says, have salt in yourselves and have peace one with another. That we can be able to accomplish these things with the understanding that we have. It's up to us to do it. And again, that's the hope. That Israel gets to a point where it's like, dang, I mean, the Lord said the kingdom is within you. Like, how much time do you need to understand how to be honest? How much time do you need to confess something? Like, Leviticus chapter 20 and 24, we'll close out. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 24, but I have said unto you, ye shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, which have separated you from other people. Again, separation from other people is for a reason. Some people will have the carnal understanding again and be like, all right, let us all be together. It never works. Never works. We're not, Israel's not built that way. The law that we've been given is what separates us from the vile behavior, the evil conscience that people have towards each other. And we've been given it to show ourselves better than everybody else. That's what it's there for. So you hope that sisters continue to pray for each other. As we always say, time is winding down. I know people will be like, oh, like it says in 2 Peter, oh, talk about that all the time, Christ coming back. It's getting closer. The world's screaming it. People aren't listening, but the world's screaming it. Make sure that you are preparing. You're changing. Like my brother always tell me all the time, like, you see the world shifting and the Most High shifting things, we got to shift with it. So prepare, get your mind right, and value these relationships that you have with one another. Don't let petty situations. Listen, don't be pigeonholed to nobody either, though. If somebody's not doing what they need to be doing, and what the Lord says, separate from them. There's nothing you can do. You pray for them at the end of the day. Don't hold no grudges or have any hatred. You pray that, the separation is not a final stage, that we can come back together. That's the hope. All right. Once again, happy Sabbath to all you brothers and sisters. Thank you for tuning in. I hope it helped. It's always therapeutic for me at the end of the day. But I hope that class made you think or touch on some things and revisit how we approach a lot of situations and people in general. All praise to the Most High for another opportunity to be able to teach. Continue to pray for one another. Have a happy Sabbath. Lord's will, we'll be back at this as soon as possible. All right. Shalom, y'all. Most High in Christ bless.